Hi. Arms are hard. You spend all this time trying to fit the shoulder with an arm, and yes, it finally works. But nope, you moved it slightly, and everything just looks horrible now. Today, we'll discuss how to design your arm for animation and review how to define the zones so arm looks appropriately and we avoid all those common mistakes. We will also cover how to use custom body control to automate this process to track the arms and scale them appropriately in Adobe Character Animator. I will share all the files for this project in the link below, but you will likely need a lot of adjustments because I assume your arms are a little bit different from mine. Alright, let's rewind all the way back. We have the basic beanbag body and we have some bumps that represent the shoulders, and we want to fit the arm. Now, our first goal is to fit the circle inside the shoulder. As easy as it sounds, you draw the circle, just nudge, find a way to fit it nicely and make sure it's kind of hidden and not obvious that shoulder is out there. And you will probably have to make adjustments to the shoulder when you're doing it to make sure that everything is snug fit. And be aware that the bigger the circle, the bigger the final arm would be. After you're done with the shoulder, create one more circle where the elbow is supposed to go. It would help you if you have some sort of a reference art, but you can kind of eyeball. But if you're gonna go this way, expect a lot of adjustments. Now let's connect two circles with a line and remove the lines from inside. This will give us our basic arm, and we can add some more details and elements on it. But the idea is that it can move really nicely, and we can control it, and we can actually move it and rotate it without transforming the art itself. After that, you can copy the elbow circle, move it a little bit forward, and do the same thing to create your forearm and the wrist position. Now, when we move the arm around the shoulder, we can see that the fit is very nice, and we can actually use the rotation to move the arm, and it allows us to see that the whole range of movements is correct and everything looks nice. Let's see if we move the circle off the center or we did not fit our circle appropriately, what can happen and what sort of mistakes can happen when the arm is wrong. Let's move it a little bit, and you can see that now when we move the arm, the experience is way different, and if we are animating, we will have to adjust the arm every time we use some sort of rotation. Okay, now we have the arm ready. The question is how to animate it. We can move it around, but it's not really enough. We also need a wrist, and we need to swap it appropriately. For example, our hand can be inside and outside. Let's look at my arm. Please pay attention to where my big finger is and if my wrist is inside or outside. We can see primary areas here, and those areas can be really defined by the wrist. And those may be wrist with the palm visible, wrist with the palm away, wrist sideways, facing up and down, and the central wrist set facing right towards us. The central wrist is also kind of a special case because in this case we'll really need to scale our forearm because otherwise it's not really three-dimensional and our arm never can enter the proper zone. Similar scaling would be required for the shoulder because if we're gonna look at the arm, we can actually define the two dots, dot in the wrist and dot on the elbow, and we can compare the distance between them to transform it into our puppet when we are working with that. So as we are moving our arm, we can transform it into Adobe Character Animator, and we can synchronize our behavior with the puppet behavior. If you're interested on a detailed process, I'll link some videos below. As we are using the automation, we are tracking the elbow angles and the distance between the wrist and the elbow and between elbow and the shoulder. And as we are tracking it, we can send the Midi signal that Adobe Character Animator will use. The only real complicated part of the code is to track it down reliably and send all the proper values based on the inputs, but it's actually pretty straightforward to transform it one-to-one. We just need to describe our joint angles and the range of movement, and when we hit it, we're supposed to swap our swap sets. So essentially we are using the transform behavior from the Adobe Character Animator. We use swap sets, and that allows us to trigger the different kind and feeling of the arm already. Just make sure that you're tracking the circles, that you're fitting them, and that you're hiding them properly, because otherwise the character is not going to look natural. Or maybe your goal is to otherwise make it very obvious. For example, if you're modeling or do some sort of a 3D, in this case, keep the circles on, keep them very obvious for your reference. At the end, we can have the smooth recording with Adobe Character Animator, and we can track our behavior as we're sitting or standing, and the character arms are gonna follow us in a full range of movements. Don't forget to come up with a catchy call to action at the end of the video. Cheers.